If you happen to be interested in a fun, lifetime rewarding hobby that is generational and easy to do, I would say that we're the best one-stop shop. Homebrewersassociation.org and our magazine, Zymergy Magazine, is what we give our members. And part of that is the recipe database, where if you're going to brew beer, you're going to ferment something, you want something that's validated, you want something that is coming from a space of people that are successful with those recipes. So we serve up exclusive to our members many recipes that others just can't get or you can't get in other places, tied to professional judging situations in competitions. And so when you judge a beer and you get a medal from the National Homebrew Competition that the AHA has been running and hosting for 40 plus years, and then you read that recipe and brew that recipe, you are brewing a recipe that has been truly tested against its peer beers or fermentation beverage. And those are the recipes, in my view, that will get you the best results out of the gates the fastest.
This is Associations Thrive, the podcast celebrating successful associations and their leaders. I'm your host, Joanna Pineda, CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. Listen in as top association executives tell all, revealing the creative and innovative ways they're increasing membership, generating revenue, nurturing engagement, and reimagining their organizations. By the way, if you've launched a new initiative, created new member services, or updated your governance structure and are seeing great results, I want to hear your story, and so do my listeners. I'd love to have you as a guest. Go to podcast.matrixgroup.net and apply to be on Associations Thrive. Now let's dive into this week's show. Today, I'm speaking with Julia Herz, Executive Director of the American Homebrewers Association, or AHA. Julia, welcome to the show.
Why, thank you for having me.
Julia, tell us about AHA.
The American Homebrewers Association has been around since 1978. It is a nonprofit out of Boulder, Colorado. And we've been representing homebrewers and then helped birth the entire craft beer movement and literally changed the whole business and practice of brewing as we know it. And it's an incredible membership group. I have 23,000 members, and we're always looking for more.
Julia, who are your members? Are they the homebrewers themselves, or is it also the people in the companies that maybe supply the products and materials to make homebrewing possible?
It's a great question, and we do have a mix of membership. The majority of our members are individual hobbyist members who use the wonderful pastime and hobby of homebrewing just for their own enjoyment, our own enjoyment. I'm literally one of them. And then we do have supplier partners, but they also classify as individual members. At this time, we don't have any other levels of membership beyond that individual membership.
What's it take to be a home brewer? Is it really complicated? Do you need a big space? Do you need a lot of fancy, expensive equipment?
Well, here's the deal. If you can make soup or bake bread, you can make beer and you can ferment. There's also kombucha, cider, mead, sake. There's so many other things to make beyond just beer. And you can make it in your kitchen on a stove. You can make it out on your patio in bigger kettles with Cajun cookers and burners. You can do it all electric in your garage. There's so many opportunities and ways to brew. And when you get into any pastime or hobby or sport, you start simple. And then if you're really excited and enthused and fueled by it, you can just grow it from there.
Wow. Okay. So you're inspiring me. So you're saying that in my kitchen, maybe I can make some kombucha.
Yeah. While you watch a movie. Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to check this out. Well, Julia, I want to ask you something a little bit more serious. The website has an update about the association becoming an independent association. What's the story here?
Sure. And it's a great one to ask about. On homebrewersassociation.org, we've shared with our members and the public the American Homebrewers Association news, and we announced it January 2025, that the AHA is going independent and leaving our parent organization. We incorporated in the state of Colorado on that date, and now we're taking steps to file our 1023. We've got a founding board in motion. We're commissioning an association management company, and we really are changing the business model of what the AHA does for future sustainability.
So previously, AHA was part of a larger organization?
Yes, that it actually started. It started the Brewers Association, that's the AHA parent organization, in the 1980s. And then many decades have passed. And now, circa 2025, after a lot of strategic research in 2024, great help from Vista Kova and Lowell Applebaum and his team, and many stakeholders and advisors, we were able to land on the fact that there is demand for a national organization that represents homebrewing interests and wants resources. So we were able to justify the business model change. And the way to make that happen is kind of breaking out and being able to experiment and reclassify what we are, because we're currently under a 501c6 as a hobbyist group. We think we'd be better served under a 501c3 status. So we're really excited about the evolutions and the changes that it'll allow us to make.
So why split off? That's a big endeavor. Is it because you represent a different class of member, or is it because you've got a different set of strategic goals?
I'd actually say both. And I mean, through the symbiotic relationship of a professional brewer organization that's also managing a homebrewer association, there's so much cross-pollination and shared kind of DNA and ethos, but there's also different interests and different needs for focus. And so simply put, it's just a good move for the AHA to be able to drill down and just have dedicated staff who are only focused on homebrewing and allow our parent organization to continue to thrive and grow without having to support the homebrewing interests that it's continued to do, but that is not exactly fully aligned with everything on the professional level.
Well, congratulations. So what's your structure today then?
Structure today is we are literally in the middle of independence. 2025 is the year. It will take multiple months to be off the books of our parent org, and it will then, we will get in the hands of our association management company. And then we will have a 2 to 3 year window to see how it goes and then iterate and evolve from there. Staffing will be a staggered model. Nothing needs to be permanent. I look at this as a long-term unfolding story, and we're kind of in the short-term version of that long-term story.
Now, are your members worldwide?
Yes, they absolutely are. Homebrewing's worldwide. Homebrewing's global.
All right, I got another fun question for you. There's a Find a Brewery map on the website. Why are there so many breweries in California, Colorado, and Pennsylvania?
Well, you're picking 3 of the top states, and I would say that, the United States of America is kind of this new world country that learned so many great brewing techniques and approaches from the old world, has had these little micro climates of beer emerge. In California, literally logs the earliest craft breweries in the 70s, Anchor Steam, New Albion Brewing, Sierra Nevada. Colorado, which is actually the home to the American Homebrewers Association, is on the map because of the AHA. And the AHA started the Great American Beer Festival in Colorado, which still to this day is the country's largest ticketed beer festival. Pennsylvania, the East Coast, what a great thriving community of amazing regional breweries like Victory Brewing Company and so many others. And you just have a really engaged State Brewers Guild, and you've also got an engaged base of breweries and homebrewers that love to talk and drink beer.
Wow. Well, we had a lot to talk about when it comes to AHA, but before we do that, we got to talk about your journey. So how do you get to become executive director of AHA?
Everyone's professional career and personal journey, too, is always unfolding. And it wasn't an overnight success story. I actually was with the Brewers Association for many, many years as craft beer program director and helped focus on growing the demand for craft beer. And so the iteration to now have that behind homebrewing is a natural fit. But I really started in this whole thing before I was an association professional as a homebrewer. So it comes from an honest place. And I think that based on my association with the Brewers Association and the AHA, it was a natural fit when the opportunity came along in 2021. And I couldn't look back. I had to go for it. I also had many years' experience at that point in being a director at an association.
Julia, how did you discover associations? Because that's always a fun story for my guests.
Absolutely. And not everyone can say, but it's so fun when you can. I kind of come from an association family. My dad worked for the NFL Players Association for many, many years as legal counsel. My brother is the director currently still of a nonprofit in Virginia, the Lime Association. My sister-in-law is with a nonprofit.
Wow.
So I've kind of had, growing up and evolving in my career, models to look to. And I always really believed in the nonprofit sector. I think there's a difference between advocates and activists. And I think when you work for an association, you're a little bit of both. But it really feels good in my day-to-day job to be on the stewardship side, to be on the nonprofit side, to be not tied to the shareholder side or a for-profit company. To me, it just works. I love working for associations, and that's just what fits.
Boy, that's amazing. Usually I'll have guests who say, well, I kind of bumped into it. I was temping or something happened, the '08 recession. That's amazing. Julia, you are a new CAE, a Certified Association Executive.
Yes, I am, excitedly so.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
But second, why did you decide to do it?
I think certifications aren't just something you want and have on paper. It really is about the learnings and the experience and the networking from the journey. I will say CAE was the hardest test I've ever taken.
Wow.
I also had to ask for accommodations for that test. I have dyslexia, and I was very concerned that I might not be able to pass it. And from that journey of acquiring my required 100 credit hours and then sitting and studying for the test, it was a solid 3 years on my side of it to really achieve it. But every single day and every piece of the curriculum and the readings and the study groups and the classes that I took, I took Susan Rodwin's prep class from Michigan Association and exposed to Cecilia, SEP, and 501c League, and really just was influenced by so many amazing people that helped me learn. And that was why I was able to pass, because I learned from talking to people, reading the readings, doing study groups, and being influenced by many of the people that have helped, frankly, influence the test as it is today. And I'm just grateful I was able to get it under my belt, because now I have a full toolbox of tools that I didn't have at all before this test, and I feel confident running an association.
Well, that's amazing. And I'm sure ASAE would be very happy to hear that. You feel like you've got this new tool set to really run the organization. And what an amazing experience to also have a cohort of the other execs that you kind of went on this journey with.
Yes, exactly. So it's not just the learnings from the curriculum, but it's also now the networking and who you're exposed to, and being tied to ASAE. I will always be a member, and using the Collaborate platform when you have a question and want to throw it out there. It's just a day-to-day, now that it's under my belt, extended tool. The tools keep growing, and that's a really incredible thing to be able to say.
Well, let's turn to AHA. Does the association promote homebrewing, or are you trying to capture those who already homebrew?
I love that question, because with the AHA going into an independent space, we are in a strategic planning cycle right now, and our new founding board, aka the members, will help answer that question. I think associations often need to do both, right? Go after who is already in their space, and then also market the space that they lead in to bring others into it. But if you look at it as a funnel, associations need to thrive. That pun is intended on this show. And so you have to go after who's in the space as your bread and butter and really serve them first and foremost. Then you have more resources to be able to go after bringing new people into the space and your membership community.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I have actually found many guests recently on the show saying that they feel a need, an obligation, and a responsibility to be the storyteller for the profession or the industry, because either the story isn't being told or it's being told badly. So you can be the storyteller for the homebrewing craft, for the experience. And speaking of the craft, you've got a Beer 101 course, and you've got this 1,400 recipe database. Tell us about that, and why is that important?
Well, side note, you're probably listening because you're into associations based on the show and Joanna. But if you happen to be interested in a fun, lifetime rewarding hobby that is generational and easy to do, I would say that we're the best one-stop shop. homebrewersassociation.org, and our magazine, Zymergy Magazine, is what we give our members. And part of that is the recipe database, where if you're going to brew beer, you're going to ferment something, you want something that's validated, you want something that is coming from a space of people that are successful with those recipes. So we serve up, exclusive to our members, many recipes that others just can't get, or you can't get in other places, tied to professional judging situations in competitions. And so when you judge a beer and you get a medal from the National Homebrew Competition that the AHA has been running and hosting for 40 plus years, and then you read that recipe and brew that recipe, you are brewing a recipe that has been truly tested against its peer beers or fermentation beverage. And those are the recipes, in my view, that will get you the best results out of the gates the fastest.
Well, I'm checking it out because I found a recipe for pizza dough and I found a recipe for gochujang.
Yes, it's fermentation. It's not just based on beer. The American Homebrewers Association is really, I think, getting even more friendly to the beyond beer space. Home fermentation, we even host in August as a national holiday, a appreciation for the active home fermentation. And if you were one of the lucky people like me during COVID that somebody handed you a sourdough starter and started making bread at home, that's something that you could nurture and evolve. And just more knowledge will help you make even better fermented products or crafts, I should say. So we've got way more than just beer recipes at the AHA.
We'll put a link in the show notes to it. And I'll tell you, Julia, my brother got into bread making during the pandemic. He has 17 starters.
Wow, incredible.
That he's maintaining and feeding. And he also got so into it that he started milling his own flour.
I love hearing that. That's so fun. Home is the place to be. And in this really technological centric, faster paced world than any other generation that's lived till today, we need that reprieve. We need that nurturing and refueling. And that's why it's fun to tinker. It's fun to kind of fumble around and try to make things and then iterate on them. And then you're super proud when somebody has a baby across the street or a birthday or somebody even passed away to hand them what you made personally because you've tasted it, you've tested it, and it's going to put a smile on their face too.
Man, I think that's absolutely true. He makes this amazing walnut cranberry loaf that my mom asks for. And she says, when are you making me the cranberry walnut loaf? It's so special.
That's so sweet. I love it. I love it.
Well, tell us about the magazine and what does Zymergy mean?
So Zymergy is the art of fermentation. It's one of the last words in the dictionary as well, Z for Zymergy.
That's a great Scrabble word because it's the Y. It's two Ys.
True. And it could come up. So good takeaway, good bonus points for the show. I would say that magazine, which we've been publishing since the late 70s when the AHA started, is one of the main anchor points that helped inspire tens of thousands, if not downstream millions of homebrewers. And we still publish Zymergy today. So when you are a member of the American Homebrewers Association, you can get it in print. Yes, we still believe in print, or you can just choose the e-version and then you get access to all the back issues. But it's a super fun one to thumb through, and it just gives you so many ways to inspire your hobby on what you're going to ferment or brew next.
In addition to this amazing publication and the recipe database, you've got a lot of events. So what's the event strategy?
Sure. And the association, it's not just about membership revenue and mission-based work, but it's about bringing people together. We're associations based on my CAE learnings because we solve problems for people and we help them connect and engage. Those are the two top reasons people join as members. So obviously events is that second piece, help people engage. So we have National Homebrew Holidays. We have Big Brew coming up in early May. Thousands of people brew the same recipe that we publish each year. We have Learn to Homebrew Day in November. We have Home Fermentation Day that I mentioned in August. We have Zymergy Live webinars, which I do consider webinars a monthly event. If you're on the staff that produces them, it definitely feels like that. Those are virtual. And then we need to get back to our in-person conference. And some of the changes the AHA has gone through and struggles, I think, are tied to the fact that we have just not served our members in the way that they want for an in-person annual gathering. So I'm looking forward in 2026 to working with our founding board and new association management company to bringing back the annual conference in person.
Wow. It sounds like you've got a really big year ahead of you. You got to come back next year because you'll have been an independent association for a whole year, and that'll be an interesting journey to unpack.
Fantastic. Really forward-thinking, Joanna, and you're right. We're going to have lots of learnings and lessons, and I'd be happy to share what those are.
Julia, to close this, it's 2025. I'm definitely piqued by everything that you're saying. So why should someone like me homebrew?
I think that homebrewing, and I organically really did gravitate to the hobby in my 20s, is a surprisingly rewarding hobby all year long. It starts with not just the brew day. It starts with when you go to the shop or order your ingredients online and you're constructing your recipe and you're really thinking about the flavor profile. It teaches you about history. It teaches you about agriculture. It teaches you about geography. And then when you brew, it's just super fun. The house, imagine a home, maybe the windows are steaming up a little bit from the boiling. It smells great. And then after you brew, you're fermenting and you're looking at this live, living fermentation that is in your space. It hears your vibration. It hears the music you play. It goes through cycles of yeast fermentation. And that's pretty amazing to watch. And then you transfer it and you package it. You can keg it, you can can it, you can bottle it. And then you're able to share it or just enjoy it yourself. But giving it as gifts is amazing. You can also enter it into competitions to get validated feedback from Beer Judge Certification Program judges. And that's incredible. Maybe you win some medals. Maybe you go far in those competitions. Maybe people start asking you for your recipes. So it's all about the whole journey of the home brewing, and you can do it at your schedule because home is the place to be, as I said, and you can just decide when you nurture that hobby and when you give it a rest too.
Julia, if I decide to make kimchi or kombucha, will it be different based on the music I play potentially?
Yeah, I think terroir isn't just the air temperature and, what Mother Nature brings to the table in terms of geography. But yes, you are part of the terroir. I've written a recent column literally for Zymergy on how the people that brew are part of the terroir of the beer and the finished beverage. So you're really right in the right space. I think you're primed for it because you're thinking those kind of thoughts.
I'm really fascinated by this. I read an article a while back about how the mood of the person milking the cow affects the flavor of the milk.
Yeah. Everything's interconnected, and that can be felt and realized or just bypassed and ignored. But at the end of the day, of course, what you're doing to that beverage with yeast, which is a living organism, and we as the brewer are kind of the vehicle to help it do what it needs to do. Of course, we're going to influence that yeast. Also, too, the space of your fermentation vessel will change the flavor. You could take the same recipe, the same beer that's ready to be fermented, put it in 2 different size fermentation vessels in 2 different corners of your house, and you will notice taste differences just because of that small, subtle change.
Wow. Well, Michael Pollan says that anytime you make something homemade, it's an act of love. And that's what this sounds like.
Yes, I love it. Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, Julia, this was a really fun interview. Thanks so much for being on the show. You have to come back.
I really appreciate it. Cheers to everybody.
Thanks for listening to Associations Thrive. We're so glad to have you here. My personal mission and the mission of my company, Matrix Group International, is to help associations and nonprofits increase membership, generate revenue, and thrive in the digital space. I want to hear stories of how your organization is thriving in today's challenging landscape. Please apply to be on my show by going to podcast.matrixgroup.net. By the way, do you need help with a digital initiative? Maybe it's a website redesign, a new membership database, or a hybrid meeting that you're planning. I'd love to connect with you. Please visit the Matrix Group website at matrixgroup.net. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Associations Thrive. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating, post a comment, and share it with your colleagues and friends. Bye!